Roll call, please.
Mack.
Here.
Braden. Here. Nash. Absent. Albert.
Here.
LaCroix. Absent. Miller.
Here.
Weedman.
Very good. We have a quorum. Please join me for the pledge. Thank you. I need a motion to approve this evening's agenda, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay.
Miller.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Albert.
Aye.
Weedman. Braden.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Are there any public comments this evening down there, Dr. Volk? Okay, thank you. Okay, I will turn over the agenda to Mrs. Miller for the Sustainability Task Force this evening.
Wonderful. Do we need to suspend Robert's Rules of Order?
Oh, yes. How did we do that last time? Did we vote on that? We did, didn't we? Okay. Okay. Right. I need a motion to suspend Robert's rules so that we can move forward with the Sustainability Task Force this evening.
I will move.
I will second.
Okay.
Miller.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Albert.
Aye.
Weedman. And Braden.
Aye.
Okay.
All right. So just as a reminder to orient us all back into the Sustainability Task Force, kind of the work that we've asked this wonderful group of people to engage in, we asked them to do three things: to come up with a prototype definition of sustainability, to look at policies, and to look at funding. And all of that to inform strategic planning as we come up with sustainability targets, because how do we come up with targets if we don't even know what we're talking about, right? So these folks, fine folks, have worked on policy today, and I just want to orient you a little bit to kind of what we've been working on in the last hour, and then we're going to move into the library to do a gallery walk, and they can, in their words, tell you what they've learned about policy so far. So would you mind throwing up the slides, please? So I'll just invite you all to think a minute about what a sustainable future looks like in your mind, and how you might describe that with words and images. So as you're thinking about your answer, this is my personal answer. And you can look at the metaphoric language, which is on the left, that the nations will make their swords into plows, make their spears into hooks for trimming trees, that nations will no longer fight other nations. They won't even train for war anymore. And each person will sit under his own vine and fig tree, and no one will make them afraid. So in my mind, that's what the future of a sustainable future looks like in words, and it literally just means there'll be peace, there'll be no weapons, everyone will have meaningful work that's respected, each one will have enough rest, and no one will be afraid. So as you think about that in your own mind, what is a sustainable future? What does that look like for you, and what does it sound like? So I gave each group a few different images, but the next one is my absolute favorite. So if you could advance the slide for me. Thank you. That's a picture of a fig tree. So again, just think about what images come to your mind when you think about your grandchildren or your neighbors or anyone that matters to you, what that looks like in the future. So we started there and checked in, and then we did kind of I told them to imagine that you're in policy land and you have a flashlight and you're just going to shine the light on a few policies. It's not going to be a deep dive into policy, but each group, A, B, and C, had between 8 and 9, actually 6 and 9 policies, and they looked at each one and rated them according to the Scoreville spiciness scale. So we used an instrument that was developed by a youth climate leadership program in California. And so they looked at those policies through 4 lenses, which they can tell you about when we're out there. And then they rated the policies as either mild, medium, or spicy. So they have a chart that they're ready to show you. And then there's a big poster because they took those individual policies and they laid them against each other in a grid and looked at whether they did one of 3 things, and then they made up their own thing too, which I thought was fantastic. 2 groups independently did this. So they looked, so you'll see policies along the top, that same number of policies along the other axis, and they rated them as, do these policies complement one another? Do they counter one another? Do they not have an impact on one another? Or is there potential for impact? And one group used an infinity sign, and another group circled their positives, I think. So with that information, we're gonna head into the library. How many minutes do we have? 24. Okay, nice. So we have, let's say 20 minutes, and you can move to each station, A, B, and C, but know that A, B, and C have meaning. So could you advance the slide, please? Thank you. So as you know, or may have heard, sustainability is actually the balance between 3 things: social, environment, and resources. So resources can be money most often, but it's also time and talent, especially in a school district. So each group is A, B, or C because they were looking at policies. So group A was looking at the resources policies and how they interact with the social policies. And B was looking at resources and then the environment. And then C is the environment and social. Because if we buy something that is eco-friendly, but it is too expensive, it's eco-friendly, but it is not sustainable. And so we're looking at the relationship between all those things have to be in place for something to be sustainable. So as you go into the room, into the library, and you pick a group, you might want to pick intentionally what you want to look at, A, B, or C, based on which relationship you want to ask questions about. And then, Mr. Mack, will you tell me when it's time to come back? I will probably just have to stand on a chair and raise my voice, and then I will call you all back. And at that point, Task Force, we thank you so much for your work and your time. Totally understand, as Dr. Glickman often says much more eloquently than I am right now, but that you are welcome to head home. Just know that we are really, really grateful, and we'll see you in April. Okay, did I miss anything? Any questions? Okay, wonderful. All right, so we'll head into the library for the next 19 minutes. Or, yeah. Yes. Should we move? So it would be helpful for planning.
Now we are back, we didn't make a motion last time to come back into the meeting, did I? No, I think we're just back in the meeting. Okay, we're back in the meeting. So you can go ahead and start the live stream. Thank you. Okay, next up, thank you, Mrs. Miller, and the task force for all the work that you're doing. It's important and really interesting to see how we react to it.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. Okay, we do have a presentation this evening from Food Service by Organic Life, and I'll turn it over to that group. Thank you for being here tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight. It is a pleasure to be here and to serve the school district. And I will introduce myself. My name is Erica Karlinski. I'm one of the vice presidents with Organic Life, and I oversee the food service operation over here. We have Amber Donley, who's our on-site district manager. And we have Jillian Scholl over there in the red, and she is vice president with business development. So we are excited to be here tonight. Oh, do I have to? Oh, yeah. Thank you. First, I just wanted to say we really got off to a great start. First, wanted to illustrate the signage that we had installed in our buildings, at every one of our buildings. We have fresh, colorful signage at all the schools. As you can see over here, just a little glimpse of what we did over the summer. Here's a picture of Grays Lake Middle School serving area. You will see there's 2 serving lines if you haven't had a chance to visit the school, and they both mirror each other. We did some orange wrappings underneath, and we did some decorations on the walls to give it a nice, brighter space. Here's an example, and one of my favorites, of this bright green pop of color as we wrapped some of the milk coolers and the prep coolers. This one in particular is Meadowview Elementary School, but the schools have them at their sites. One of my favorite things to look at. And like I said, it's been an awesome start to the school year. We've increased participation quite a bit, approximately 11,000 meals from the start of the school year through the end of February already. GMS, we offer many options over at the middle school level. They have a hot daily special every day, multiple daily offerings, pizza, nachos, chicken sandwiches, all the favorites of the middle schoolers. Park and Frederick have 2 hot daily specials, and cold daily choices. Elementary schools have 1 hot daily special currently, and we have an assortment of fresh fruit and veggies, along with 2 variations of milk for the students. An example of a breakfast elementary menu, we offer a grab-and-go breakfast program over here. So breakfast is offered at the doors at the schools, and students can grab a bag and head over to the classroom, which definitely helps increase participation when they're able to pick up the bag and take it to the classroom, because there's a short period of time in the mornings. An example of a middle school lunch menu, as I mentioned, we have a hot daily special, and then we have everyday daily choices, which are listed on the right. But the daily special changes from month to month, from day to day. As you can see, it's something different practically every single day, along with mostly the fan favorites. And we always incorporate new menu items each month, and we watch participation to see what the kids like and what they don't like as much or don't care for as much, because our main goal is always to get the kids to be happy and eating foods at school. Also, composting has been working very well. Been pretty smooth transition. We started with Woodview. At this point, we have reached all of the schools. So we are composting in the front and the back of the house, in the kitchen, and out in the cafeteria as well, with the food and the students. We have 5-compartment compostable trays, which look like the one in the picture you can see at the schools. And we've also implemented individual sporks, which as a result, it's less waste versus the sport kit that was previously used that included a napkin and a milk straw and a sport kit wrapped in plastic. And now we're using the individual sporks, so there is less waste if a student does not need the napkin or the milk straw, just the spork. We, in collaboration with the school district, we had sent out a food service survey. This one I thought was very important. to note, but one of the questions asked was, what is most important to you? And over 80% of the students had said multiple choices. To have multiple choices daily was important to them, as it is to us. And we will be introducing an additional entree made available to the elementary schools beginning April 1st, so they'll have another choice too if they don't like the current daily special that's offered to them. So I think that could only help because obviously not everyone always likes the same things, so just to give a little more variety to the students. And we always want to keep it fun for the kids. We recently had green apples for St. Patrick's Day, a fun whole grain cookie treat, some holiday treats during Valentine's Day, which the slushy cups is one of the favorites. It's 100% fruit juice, and we always try to keep the kids excited because lunchtime should be their most important part of their day, to us in food service, that is. And I saved the best for last. This one's my favorite. It's just a picture of some happy students at lunchtime eating their fan favorite pizza. Thank you. I won't be touching that anymore. You all hear me, and that truly does bring our update to an end. We want to thank you for the opportunity.
We are recording it, and so people will be able to hear you.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's
Okay.
fine. Just, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you. I just want to thank everybody for the partnership and opportunity to serve the students here. Any questions?
Participation rate go up?
Yes, participation rate has increased. As I mentioned earlier, we've increased approximately over 11,000 meals since the start of August, in comparison to last school year. So I could only imagine it's going to continue to rise, and with the expansion of introducing new menu items. And first year is always tricky in order to see what the kids like and some of their favorites, but we've increased participation across the board. And we also noticed last week's more kids are eating the food, so as a result there is less waste, and we're just happy to see happy kids.
Thank you for that.
Of course.
I'm interested to hear how you think about the intersection of participation and healthy food, cognizant of the fact that if you serve like kale quinoa salads every day and nothing but that, your participation will start to approach zero.
Oh, yes.
So how is it you think about that and balancing those two things and finding foods that is at the intersection of those two things?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, sometimes what us as adults would eat and would like to see our students eating, the students are not going to eat that, unfortunately. We do like to try new things with the students too and implement foods if we can here and there. But we do follow the USDA guidelines, and we're on the National School Breakfast and Lunch Program. So our foods are made with whole grains. We do utilize more fresh over frozen, less canned foods, and trying to find a healthier alternative for the kids, because they're still going to like the pizza and they're still going to like the mac and cheese and the brunch for lunch, but giving the students a little bit of a balance, because we do certainly want them to eat. Otherwise, like you said, they're just not going to, and then they're going to have a hard time studying and learning throughout the day.
I wondered if our staff and any lunchroom staff that have worked with the company have any feedback, has the district heard anything about working with the new vendor this year?
I've eaten the salad. It's really good.
It's a nice portion, too.
Thank you, that's great to hear. Okay, so I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I have 4 questions and they have parts. So in terms of sustainability, we're looking at those 3 pillars that we talked about before. So I had some questions about your supply chain, because the policy that we follow has us looking at procurement and supply chain stuff. So can you tell us about how you monitor your supply chain, as we're thinking about how to monitor our supply chain? What kinds of things are you monitoring, and what improvements do you think you might anticipate coming up in the next year? Is the first question.
So we work with, we get our food from Gordon Food Service. That's our purveyor, and we work closely with them. And they're, I would say that as far, do I word it?
Take your time. And if you need to pass, it's fine
Yeah.
to come back to us too.
Yeah,
That's
let me
not
pass
a
that.
problem. Sure.
And I'll
Yeah.
get back to you on that one.
No worries.
Okay.
And then thinking about organizationally, how does Triple Bottom Line show up? Again, if you need to pass, no problem, but I'm just curious about, is there a dedicated sustainability person that has a job that's their focus at your company, or is it spread out, and is it in performance evaluations? Like, how does it show up?
I would say that it's spread out, and we all work together on that. And we work with our suppliers, and we work from within and with the school district as well.
Okay. Yeah, I would just, as I'm thinking about what I'm monitoring, if you have some specifics later at a later time, that'd be really interesting. Thank you. Okay, so number 3 is, it speaks to something you've already talked about, which is the decrease in composting. And I have to refresh myself. The breakfast items. It seems like there's been a decrease in whole food composting, or throwing, let me say this again.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like we are throwing less whole food away into the garbage. We've diverted some of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed on the menu, there's a lot of processed food in 1 week that has wrappers. And I'm just wondering, is there anything, like, do you have any ideas about how we could reduce single-use packaging, whether it's plastic bags? I'm assuming some of the stuff comes in plastic bags.
Yeah, for breakfast.
What would it take for us to do that?
For breakfast, like as I mentioned earlier, our breakfast program is a grab and go. So we pre-package the items into the bag, and then the students take that to the classroom. It would be very difficult to eliminate some of those pre-packaged items. That would just involve more labor, more time and hours spent, and also ultimately the staff would be wrapping it anyway in some way, shape, or form in order to put it into the bag for them to take to the classroom with them. And then if the students came through the breakfast line, which I don't think is feasible here, they would still be taking it to the classroom. It would be on a tray. It would probably not work with the amount of students that come through.
Gotcha. Okay, so it would take infrastructure, it would take time, it would take things that just aren't available to you right now. And is paper a possibility, or
Paper, what type of paper?
instead of plastic bags?
Instead of the plastic?
Maybe there's a trade-off that I'm not aware of.
In the actual bags, it's a possibility instead of the grab-and-go bags.
Okay.
That would be a possibility, but the items that are individually wrapped, those are wrapped in plastic.
Okay.
Typically, yeah.
Thank you. I'm just not in the building, so
Yeah.
it's just helpful to hear that. Okay, last one. Your RFP indicates, let me just read my question here. A few different things, that you incorporate local produce, that you are specializing in growth strategies, and that you, let me find the language here, incorporate seasonal produce and local food into your menus. So I'm just curious, like, in terms of what's coming up in the year, are there things that are shifting as you hone your own process that we should be aware of? Anything that we might see a change in next year as opposed to this year, relative to local food and fresh produce?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, we really strive more so on the fresh fruits and vegetables. being in the Midwest, sometimes we're a little bit limited to that, but we certainly utilize farms that are very nearby in Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan. And we're always introducing new fresh fruits and vegetables when they're available to us seasonally to the students for them to try new things, and also incorporating them in some of our dishes as well.
Wonderful, okay. So if I ask you about that next year, what question would I ask? So about local produce, like is there data available on that? Or
Oh, we
is
could
it-
certainly provide that too. Yeah, we could get some more information to you in advance.
Yeah, and I'm just, again, I'm new to this, so just looking for ideas. So not trying to put you on the spot at all, just trying to understand how are you doing it so that we could align a little bit with what you're doing.
Okay.
So
Yeah, and we could work together too.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Of course, thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation. Okay, that moves us along to our board reports this evening. I can start down here with Mrs. Albert this evening.
I attended another lunchtime webinar hosted by the IASB Illinois Governmental Relations team, and they said to look for a robust legislative update in our inboxes the end of this week, because the Illinois House and Senate committee deadline is Friday, March 21st. I sent you some links about the ISB redesign of the accountability framework, because it looks like they're possibly looking to remove the fine arts indicator from the school report card. And since we have often expressed pride in our fine arts programs in our district, we might want to take a look at that and give some input. I think the deadline for input is April 7th. So go ahead and look at those links I sent you, please. I want to say congratulations to the D46 bands and choirs that are going to state on April 26th. And then in keeping with the fine arts theme, I'm grateful for the collaboration and years-long tradition of artwork, student artwork being featured in the Grays Lake Area Community Library. I've been enjoying perusing the artwork as I visit the library. So thank you for that.
Okay, I have a brief report. I enjoyed similarly with the fine arts. I enjoyed the performance of The Wizard of Oz this past weekend. It was a lovely performance and just really enjoyable to be over at GMS and see all the talent that I don't have blossoming in our young artists. So that was great. Congratulations to that whole team of musicians and actors and crew and faculty and staff and everybody that put together a wonderful show. We had a CEDAL meeting 2 weeks ago now, I think, on March 5th. And the biggest takeaway from that meeting was that the governing board is discussing ways in which that we can create a dashboard so that the governing boards that gather, as you know, CEDAL has a governing board which meets once per quarter, and then an executive board which meets more like we do, right, as a regular board. And so the governing board members, sometimes there's a large span of time in between our meetings because it's only once per quarter. So the suggestion came from, I can't remember, one of the other member districts to perhaps create a dashboard on their website that shows boards specifically so that we can bring back more information for how CEDAL is advancing and working through things. Especially, they've launched or are continuing their continuous improvement plan and stuff like that. So stay tuned for more information on that. That is something that is developing. And our next governing board meeting, in fact, will be in June. So we'll there's like a 3-month span in between the two meetings. So I'll have more up to date in our summer meetings. So that's all I got. Mrs. Miller?
Thank you. So a quick update on the CEC. The food drive is April 21st through the 25th. So students can drop off food, and then our CEC members will transport that to the Avon Township Food Pantry this spring. Also, I went to the divisional dinner and just wanted to share some highlights from some of the information that they shared with us about Pritzker's budget and then about Vision 30. So the slide that they shared showed some key expenditures, and I thought you'd be interested. I think most of us know this already, but $350 million in his budget is going to EBF, $45 million to the teacher vacancy grant, and this is the last year of that 3-year commitment. $78 million to begin addressing the Tier 2 challenges that our state is facing. And then this one I thought was particularly interesting, the MCATs, which I believe is the mandated categoricals. Is that right, Dr. Bookman? Was funded at $20 million, and it was the only one that was funded. The rest, transportation, special ed transportation, and special ed private placement, was not funded at the 0. So they really prioritized orphanages with the $20 million, but something we might want to keep in mind as we're thinking through budgeting process. I know that our administrators are already doing that, because I thought it would be good for us to be aware of it too. And then also talked about, we got a federal update, and at this point, the executive orders have not had an immediate impact on us, but there are some uncertainties that we might want to be aware of, specifically about Medicaid. They called out Medicaid as something that's uncertain that we should keep an eye on. And the other thing was that the Department of Ed, I think everyone's aware, has been reduced by 50%. Again, taking a look at what that might mean for us. But at this point, they are trying to assess the impacts on us right now. So that was the division. That was the division dinner. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And I'll hand it over to Dr. Glickman for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Mack. Well, first of all, I would love to welcome Jose Zares. Are you back at the table? Okay, I know you had to deal with the building issue. Jose Zares is our brand new Director of Operations, Maintenance, and Safety. Board, when I say brand new, I mean he started on Monday. So this is his count at 3rd day, so I'm going to ask you to please go easy on him tonight. But he'll be ready to answer all your questions in April, I promise. But he's really, he's excited to be here, and we're really excited to have him. So welcome, Jose. Absolutely. As you know, we've got spring conferences going on late this afternoon into the evening, and then tomorrow afternoon and evening. I'm going to hand this over to Amanda to share information about our Media Center user groups.
Yes, so as you know, in the fall, we had a core planning group meeting, several series of meetings with WOLD to set the priorities and the consistency across buildings. And we are excited that we have scheduled our user groups. So those are going to be people who are going to use this space. So classroom teachers, the info specialists, the STEM teachers, talking specifically about their buildings. And there will be a series of meetings to get feedback from them. And we are also looking at ways to solicit student input still. So that will come at the end of those user groups.
Thank you. Jim, thank you for mentioning BarnFest. I'm going to just add to that with a little incentive, 2 incentives. One is that please remember that the cost goes up to buy your ticket April 1st, and it goes up by $15. So, you know, if you and a couple of other family members or friends are going, that adds up. So the time to purchase those tickets is now. And also, any ticket that is purchased goes into a drawing for a $200 Amazon gift card. So that's also pretty cool. And as we know, that fundraiser funds our Foundation 46, which funds special projects, innovative projects for teachers. So it's a really wonderful way to give back to the community. Thank you to those who talked about the arts in our school district and our community, because the rest of my report, almost the rest of it, is about arts. There's so much that's been happening. So recently we had schools participate in an IGSMA contest. Remember, IGSMA stands for Illinois Grade School Music Association. Congratulations to Frederick's 6th grade cadet band that earned a Division I rating, and to the GMS Treble Choir, also a Division I rating, and GMS Symphonic Band, Wind Ensemble, and Jazz Band, all Division I ratings. So in case you can't do the math on that, that's the best rating you can get. There was also a Mundelein Jazz Festival. Our schools had the highest scores of all middle school bands. Outstanding middle school section was our trumpets, and we even had an outstanding middle school soloist in 8th grade. We've had 2 wonderful plays happen over the past month. So we had the Park School musical, Little Mermaid, at the end of February, beginning of March. And then, as was mentioned a moment ago, we had the GMS Spring Play, Wizard of Oz. And we, not only was it a great opportunity for families to see that show, but all of our 4th graders that feed into GMS were able to attend the Friday morning performance. And then the Community Art Fair, I know that was mentioned as well. I wanted just to add in that if you haven't had a chance to see that amazing art, the art exhibit will be up through the 31st of March. So if you haven't gone yet, and if you're heading out of town for spring break, you got to get there the Monday after spring break. And speaking of that, I'll just end with the fact that yes, we are heading into spring break, so I want to wish all of our families and all of our staff and our whole community some rest, relaxation. You've all earned it, and hopefully some fun over spring break. And that is the end of the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Glickman. Okay, that brings us to our consent agenda this evening. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, which also includes the personnel addendum that was sent earlier.
I'll move. I'll second.
Okay.
Braden,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
and Weedman.
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. That brings us to our action items. We have got a few tonight. The first one is nice. A motion to approve a donation of $20,000 for Woodview School. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. Do you have any information you'd like to share? Mr. Wildman or Dr. Wood?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. The district has received a gift of $20,000 from a family who wishes to remain anonymous. They've asked that the funds be specifically allocated towards the purchase and installation of a new AV system for the Woodview School Gym. Board Policy 8:80 states that the Board of Education approves restricted gifts, and this is a restricted gift because it's going specifically to something. All gifts greater than $500. It's in alignment with all the strategic goals of the district, so the administration is recommending that we accept the gift.
I just wanted to add a little more information as well, that we appreciate this. Obviously, we deeply appreciate the donation. And we appreciate the family's interest in working with the administration on what is needed at Woodview School. So that purchase for the AV system was already on the docket. It's something that Woodview was working towards. Their PTO has been raising funds for it. And you wanted to add something? No? Yes, no?
It's 2/3 being paid for by the donor and 1/3 by the BTO.
Yeah, 1/3.
Yep.
Yeah, I got a finger and I didn't know what I meant. Okay, I didn't know that this meant 1/3. Okay, so so we were already working towards this purchase, and the family said, "What do you need?" And that's just really lovely and warm.
Incredibly generous. Thank you.
Weedman, Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Braden,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
and Albert.
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Thank you very much. I need a motion to approve the math resources, Imagine Learning for grades K through 5 and Amplify Desmos for grades 6 through 8 as they were presented.
I'll move. I'll second.
Okay.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Braden,
Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
and Weedman.
Aye.
Okay, great. Motion approved. I need a motion to approve policy 7:100.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay.
Albert,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Braden. Aye. LaCroy,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
and Weedman.
Aye.
Motion carries. And finally, I need a motion to approve the printer contract with Proven IT as it had been presented. I'll second.
I do have a question for the contract. Since we're doing it early, since we're doing it early, will this put us in line to do it at this time going forward? And then any changes to the copiers will happen over the summer?
Yeah, so the contract was set to renew, as you know, in December, and we're given the opportunity to renew early, so it would align to be able to do the work over the summer. We are actually going to, if approved, be able to get the copy machines in over spring break, but will allow us to renew our contract moving forward in the summer, which is much easier. So we're excited about that and about the cost savings over the next 5 years.
Miller,
Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Braden. Aye. Mack,
Aye.
Weedman,
Aye.
and LaCroy.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. We have no unfinished business this evening, but we have a few items under the new business. First being the 25-26 preliminary staffing plan. I'll hand it over to Dr. Wolk.
Thank you, Dr. Mack. It feels like 12 months ago we were in the same spot talking about the same thing. How a year goes by. All right. Welcome, everybody. Glad everybody could come out tonight. Here we are this year, this time of year. We're talking about the staffing plan and enrollment for next year. We still have a lot of school left, but staffing's never done. We're always watching numbers of students who are enrolling, who are leaving our district, and we have to start planning now. So I'm here tonight to present the enrollment projections and staffing plan for next year. We'll start with our mission. We are cultivating a community of learners, whether it be students and teachers, and we're hoping to create equity across all of our buildings so that all of our students get the best education possible. As I mentioned, staffing's never done. So just a little bit of background before I go into the process. We pulled numbers in late January. I pulled numbers on March 5th. I pulled student numbers on March 16th. And I just got an email right before we started here this evening that there's a class or a grade level that we've kind of been keeping our eye on, and they just had an enrollment. So it never ends, and we always are a little bit, flexible with how this goes. But in late January, I have staffing meetings with all of our building administrators and our department heads to kind of get a gauge of, here are your numbers, here are our student enrollment. Is there anything else that we need to start looking at as we plan for next year? Each year, we hear requests. Sometimes we are able to approve them. Sometimes we're not able to approve them. Just kind of depends on where we're at. We use the cohort survival method, and what that is we take our current kindergartners, our 24, 25 kindergartners, we roll them up to our 25, 26 first graders. So just bumping a grade up. We're assuming that everybody's coming back. We do know that we have people move out. We do know that we have people come in, so that's not perfect that we can figure that out, but we have a good gauge on where we're going. And then it's always tricky because kindergarten and pre-K, those numbers are difficult to figure out. If we have pre-Kers moving up to kindergarten, we know them. If we have some siblings that we just happen to know about, we know where they're coming into kindergarten. So it's always tricky to project our pre-K or predict our pre-K and our kindergarten numbers, but I've wanted to work with our registration team and our Director of Innovation, Amanda, on how to possibly add a question to our registration form so that we can start to see what people come, like families and siblings that are coming up, so we have a better chance at predicting these numbers. Trends. This is important to note that for the past 6 years, we've continued to see an enrollment between 3,450 and 3,550. So we have about like every year I come up here and numbers change by the first day of school, but we are constantly in that window, and it's 100 kids. 100 kids is not a lot, but when you start to see where they're going, so we could have bubbles, and so we could have a whole group of kids move into Meadowview second grade, and that might have to change the numbers of sections that we have. So we continue to watch this, but this is where we typically land. 6 years is a pretty good sample size. And then we always are cognizant of our collective bargaining agreements and what our class size numbers are or what our class parameters are for those. Currently, they're kindergarten through fourth grade. We have a cap of 25 kids, and then 5th through 8th grade, we have a cap of 30 students. I just ran some quick numbers and projected class sizes for next year. For K4, we're looking anywhere between 17 and 25, and for 5th through 8th, we're looking at 24 to 28. Again, depends on the building, depends on the grade set, what grade level we're looking at. And so this information that I'm sharing here is our projected student population for next school year. I pulled these numbers on 316, thanks to some of my friends in the technology department. And it's just some information for you. I like to share it. If you take a look on the bottom right, all the way down here, these are our current numbers. We're currently sitting at 3,542, 42 students, which kind of puts us in that 3,550 students. And then where we're projecting next year, we're looking at 3,451 students. Again, puts us in that window. And if you do the math, we're looking at about 90 less kids. A big reason for that is a big group, 8th graders, leaving us at GMS. So that's a pretty big class. Usually we hover right around 390 students, or no, I'm sorry, 300 students. Yeah, I'm doing the math for both schools. But we usually hover 300 students for each grade level at GMS and Park. That's kind of just where we see everybody every year. When we start to talk about pre-K and kindergarten, pre-K is for some of us, it's very difficult to predict because the way our program is that students qualify for it. We have a number of different programs in our pre-K building, and we always start the year somewhere around like 80, 90 kids. But as we go through the year, then we end up with 170, 180 students. Students are qualifying, they're hitting the right age where they can then now come in. So we don't staff for the start of the school, we staff for the end of the school at pre-K. Also, I like to always share our kindergarten numbers because it is one of those things that you just can't predict. If we go back to January 18, where we had 330 students, 18-19, we added full-day kindergarten. Thank you to the board for that. So we've seen our numbers go up. We've seen our numbers come down. We've seen our numbers go back up. And, it's just kindergarten is always hard to figure out. And so especially this coming year, I don't know if the housing market's a little bit different this year than it has been over the past couple of years. They're projecting that due to rates, they're not going to see a lot of movement. And so that's different than as we were coming out of COVID. So we might not see a lot of people moving in and out of the district, but kindergartners we're just not sure of. And so that brings us to changes for next year as far as staffing goes. As I mentioned, we take a look at every class, every grade level, at every building. And then we start to figure this out. So when we start to take a look at numbers, while there might be 2 or 3 kids that are leaving from one school, there might be another school that goes up. So it's just kind of moves across. I mean, we're always adjusting. Due to the current projected student enrollment numbers for next year, we would be losing 4 classroom sections across the district, primarily at the K-4 buildings. The district will not be conducting a RIF this year. That's a reduction in force due to, normally, if we said we have 4 sections going down, we might have to release 4 teachers due to a RIF, not because of performance, but just because there's not a position there. We have enough, we know of enough retirements and people who have already let us know that they will not be coming back next year, that we're confident that we will have those 4 teachers in a spot. And it, as we go through the hiring, we're always having to look for more teachers. So we're excited to share that we will not be letting any teachers go for RIF. Increases for next year. We are requesting and recommending a couple of new staff positions for next year. The first being an additional resource teacher, special education teacher at Woodview School due to increase in their IEP numbers. And this also would bring them up to 4 resource teachers, which is also where we are at for Avon, Meadowview, and Prairie View. Just over the past 2 years, those numbers hadn't been there for Woodview, so we want to make sure that we're able to keep our caseloads in check. We are also recommending an increase of a 0.4 FTE for a social worker and a 0.5 speech path. These increases will end up rounding out a position of 1.0 at our Mile and Link programs. So right now, we have kind of part-time people that are moving around. Those are being piecemealed together. So if you're a social worker at Park, you might service some of those minutes. If you're a social worker at Meadowview, you might be servicing some of those minutes for the Lincoln Mile classes. What we'd like to do is do this increase of these FTE, and that's going to give us a dedicated 1.0 social worker for the Lincoln Mile programs. So they will have to go between buildings, but that person will be responsible for that entire program. So that's social worker and SLP. We're also recommending a 0.5 social worker increase at early childhood. As we are, watching our students come to us, there is a higher need for some of their social work minutes, and there's a current 1.0 FTE there. We're recommending increasing it to a 1.5, so an additional 0.5. And the last recommendation and request would be to increase 1.0 FTE for a CODA, that's a Certified Occupational Therapist Assistant. And those, we're also seeing increases in our OT minutes across the district, and the CODA would help alleviate some of that. That's all I have. Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Wolk.
Before he sits, I wanted to add one more thing. So the last few years, I believe, we've brought enrollment projections and staffing plans to you more than once in the spring. We've been talking about it. There have been times when we've done that when there's been like significant change. At this time, unless the board prefers otherwise, we're not planning to bring Dr. Wolk back to do this again this spring unless there are significant changes to share with you. Is that okay with you? Because otherwise you basically have to see the whole same thing again.
Or unless you want to.
You can tell jokes, but, okay.
I got to stand up for 2.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, next is the purchase of student Chromebooks, Chrome Care warranty, and cases. Right?
Yes, so as part of our master technology plan and strategic plan, we've committed to a consistent refresh cycle of student devices. As you'll remember, last year we moved that refresh cycle from 3 years to 4 years to get more life out of the devices and create less waste. And so we are recommending to purchase those devices this year. We're doing it a little bit earlier this year than we did last year to try and avoid some of those tariffs that are impacting lots of things, including copy machines and Chromebooks. And so purchasing the devices based on student counts and the warranty, that would include the $0 deductible for broken screens.
Thank you. Any questions from anybody? No? Thank you, Ms. Belzer. Okay, that brings us to the WOLD fee proposals for 2026 Media Center renovations and 2026 exterior envelope improvement projects.
So I'd like to invite Matt Burden up, and I will introduce kind of all three of these fee proposals. We're really busy, so we need an architect to help us with a lot of the work. So the first one, there's three proposals as part of this agenda item. The first one is supporting the district through the 2026 Media Center renovations. So that was what we heard about, the user groups for the media centers to support us through that process. So that's the first fee proposal. The second one is the 2026 exterior envelope improvements project. So that's part of the work that will be done in 2025 and 2026. 2026? 26, thank you. As part of the DCEO grant that we received for $451,000. And then the third one is the 2026 site improvements project at Frederick School. There's additional concrete work that's needed to facilitate that based on what we've already presented to you in November and December. So if you have any questions about any of those, Matt's here to talk to you.
I have 3 questions. So one of them has to do with the reconstruction of the dumpster area outside of Frederick. Just wondering if there's infrastructure that will help us with the composting and resource conservation efforts that we've been making.
We can certainly include that. I'm not 100% sure what if you need power out there or anything like that. We can certainly trench and conduit and set that up. It's nothing we've talked about currently, but we certainly put that in there. We just need to know where and what, and we can make that happen. The biggest part of it is right now it's all asphalt back there, which is in pretty rough shape. It's got some pitting from garbage truck traffic, things like that. So in conjunction with this summer's work of getting the chillers replaced, that is all going to become concrete back there. So it gives you a little more flexibility with where you want to put your dumpsters, your compost, and all of that stuff, because you want that to be on a concrete pad just from a durability standpoint.
Okay, thank you. And just to be clear, I was just curious if it did support composting. So if it does, that's
yeah, it's going to be a
asking.
much larger concrete area. So if you wanted recycling, dumpsters, trash, space to place that.
Excellent, thank you. My next question is about the windows. Do the windows open and close? Are the teachers or building occupants able to adjust the temperature of the room via windows?
There's no windows included in this work right now. The grant project, we were potentially looking at windows, but just based on the dollar amount, the window replacement project that I blanket on the building was $1.2 million. The grant was for $451,000. So we're focusing just on the masonry repairs right now, masonry and the foundation repairs. So when we get to the point in the plan when we start to address that window issue, that'll be part of the discussion, is to figure that out. It's honestly, it's building by building and district by district whether they want operable windows or not. So we can certainly accommodate either way.
But mostly focus on the masonry,
yes,
as opposed to
correct.
replacing.
Yep.
Gotcha. Thank you
Yep.
for clarifying that. And then the last one is, we have requested a resource conservation report. Is there any data that you're already collecting that might be available for that report? I don't know what that report's going to look like.
No, nothing
I'm
right
just
now that
wondering.
we're tracking. I think with your recently installed building automation system, that's the sort of stuff you can start to probably pull some of that data from if you're looking at energy consumption, utility consumption, that sort of data. But it's nothing that's on our plate.
On our
It's
end.
something we're watching.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks, Matt. My question is just about the same topic that Amanda brought up, which was just the future of material costs and tariffs. I'm sure that's your whole world right now and on your mind a lot. But just wondering, I know it's unknown, but how are you thinking about that, and how, how should we be thinking about
COVID.
that? Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's the best we can do right now is kind of plan for it from a budget standpoint, assuming that whether it's tariffs on material costs or specific places of origin for that stuff, we've typically in construction seems to plan for around 4.5% inflation per year. We're looking at probably closer to 7.5%. So we're trying to bump that up a little bit. Is that the right number? I don't think we know yet, but at least we're trying to accommodate for something so we're not caught completely off guard. Similarly, depending on the scope of the projects, we want to start thinking about material lead times. So as we get into the design of the projects where we have things that are potentially going to be a long lead time or maybe impacted by that, we want to start thinking a little more critically about, is that the right product for this project, or do we need to get alternative procurement methods, whether it's co-op or early bid packages, things like that, to get us more time just to get that equipment on time.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and finally, on our new business list, we have the engagement agreements for the interim director of operations and maintenance with Gawalt Hamilton Associates and professional services for the 25 construction projects. Mr. Wildman.
So as we can all see, we have our new Director of Operations, Maintenance and Safety. To support him through this transition, we didn't want to just pull GHA out. So it was in the best interest of everybody that we've looked at the contract that we presented to you, rather than having Scott Gonke and Steve Miller doing 3 and 2 days. We're actually just going to go down to 2.5 days with Steve, and we're actually going to be saying goodbye to Scott Gonke at the end of March. So Scott's going to leave us, but he's going to be in the background and helping out with, because he's obviously been with the district for just almost a year, and he's going to help Steve out as we budget for 2.5 days. So he's either going to do 2 days or 3 days, but from a budget perspective, it's 2.5 to see out the remainder of the school year through June 30th fiscal year, and support Jose in his work. And then the second part of the agreement is Steve will continue to be the owner's rep to help us through the construction period of summer of 2026, because we want him to be successful as possible, and they've been involved with all the construction projects, so it makes sense that they have continuity and see them out to the end.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Wildman. That brings us to topics for future agenda items. Dr. Glickman.
Yes, well, I have agenda items for you for all of the board meetings for the rest of the school year. Not to say that they can't be added, but we have hit the time of the school year where we're actually thinking about how we end this year. We have 5 board meetings left. I think that's kind of remarkable that that's all that's left. And so here's what's planned. April 9th. We have GMS students coming to present to you and back to the board table. We always like that. And then we have 2 presentations that we're really looking forward to along with the GMS presentation. We have folks coming to present about Evolve. You've been hearing me talk about that a little bit, board. That is a program that has been supporting our students in grades 5 through 8. And we have some staff members along with some people from the Evolve organization coming to talk with you about that. We also have a bunch of staff members coming to talk with you about the recommendation regarding multilingual services in the future. So I think you've been waiting kind of with bated breath for this recommendation from that PDT group of people working together to really envision what's next for that department. Dr. Wolk will present non-renewals for staff members, and then we have approvals for the 3 things that you just talked about, the GHA contract, the Wold engagement, and the Chromebook purchases as well. So that's April 9th. April 23rd, we have our Park Campus Wolves coming back. So again, presenting to the board and sitting at the table. We'll have another meeting with our sustainability group, our sustainability task force. We have some board meeting things, some seating of new board members. Didn't say that the right way. We're going to be excited to seat our new board members on April 23rd. Also, the board will talk about board meeting dates for the next school year. We will be having 2 hires that evening. Our Director of Multilingual Services, we intend to bring you a, no. Yes? Okay, this is a fun night. All right, yeah. Director of Multilingual Services hire. I'm all confused now. All right, April 23rd, we'll be bringing you a recommendation for Director of Multilingual Services. We also intend to bring you the Frederick Assistant Principal, correct? Okay. As you know, board, Mrs. Mary Murphy, who is the outstanding assistant principal here at Frederick now, she's moving over to GMS to be the assistant principal there, and so we have to fill that position. So that hire is expected on April 23rd. And then a food service renewal with the Organic Life on the 23rd. Is that correct, Dr. Chris Wildman?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
On the 23rd? Okay,
Yep.
great. All right, May 14th, GMS is coming back again to talk with you and sit at the table. We have 2 updates that we're going to do that evening, an overview of our arts programming, and then our Safety and Security Committee is going to come and do an update about safety and security matters this school year. And then a few things to do with boards. So we're going to do board photos that night, so dress in your finest, the board meeting dates approval, and board committees. Talk about that. June 4th, we have 2 different presentations, the Sustainability Task Force report and the Resource Conservation Committee update. Those 2 should come together quite nicely. And then a renewal with Forward Edge. And finally, June 18th, the last board meeting of the school year, your administration will do a strategic plan update for you. So we'll talk about what we've done in the past year regarding our strategic plan, along with all of our action steps that are planned for the upcoming year. And then just a reminder that we know, board, you're intending to engage in strategic planning in the winter or spring of next year as well. So this will be the last year of the current strategic plan. Next year will be. That's it. That's what's planned.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Glickman. We have any public comments, Dr. Wolk? We do?
Yes, we have
Yes.
one, Sarah Jennings.
Mrs. Jennings?
Those of you may remember that I came last year regarding some schedule changes, and I just wanted to come back and revisit the topic now that we have about 8 months under our belt. The last time I came, I was really confused on what was going on as a parent. The parents of band last year at GMS received a letter in May stating that the schedules were changing. And due to the schedules that were changing, students who were at GMS, who were in band, no longer were allowed, or no longer were able to be in art, music, and STEM. Other changes happened, as you all know. Theater and speech is no longer offered because Park didn't have it. But there was a lot going on, and it was very confusing as a parent. Now that we have 8 months under our belt, I've kind of understand what's happening this school year. And so I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention if you're not aware, because I think it's really important what's happening. So this year there's no more homeroom, which is fine. There's now advisory, which is 15 to 18 minutes. I actually asked students, about 20 of them, what they do in advisory. You don't want to know. Unfortunately, it's not what they're, it was totally intended, the intention was completely pure. The plan, which I didn't understand last summer either, was so that students could have emotional support type of, like they do like a 5-minute video on friendship and strength and that kind of stuff, and then they have questions. Unfortunately, not all teachers are following this. Some kids didn't even know what I was talking about, but that's not why I'm here, actually. So the block classes. It was my impression last year when I was here that the block classes were what was preventing students that were going to GMS from having art, music, and STEM. In reality, I found this out just recently. It's because students who are in band, sorry, I have to get my thoughts together here. Students who are in band now automatically have what's called WIN, which is, or things I need, or what I need, whatever it's called. So instead of band students having the opportunity to be in art, music, and STEM, they now have WIN in place of it. And so WIN, if you don't know what it is, I don't want to call it study hall. It's not supposed to be called study hall, but it's a time where kids can get caught up. They can ask teachers questions, things like that. So why I'm here is I've done more research because I'm a parent who's kind of crazy about my kids and I want to know everything. So in my research or investigation, I'm only talking about Frederick, or GMS. I want to make sure I'm clear. I'm only talking about GMS here. For the committee, they met about once a month for one school year. There were 22 committee members on the board. No parents were involved at all. It was only teachers and staff. That is affecting 24% of the students who are going to GMS, this change. So under 4% of the staff in District 140 or 46 made this decision that is affecting 24% of the population at GMS. So as I'm sitting here and I'm hearing awesome things about the art stuff, the library, I mean, fantastic stuff, and my students don't get to participate in that. I talked to Dr. Glickman last year and explained how students here at Frederick, they don't get STEM if they're in band. Okay, I knew that coming into Frederick. I was mentally prepared for that. I knew that wasn't part of the deal, but I was also promised that there would be after-school clubs, like art. Fantastic. My daughter has been here for 2 years. She has yet to make it into the art club because they're packed. They're full. And I had mentioned to Dr. Glickman about this last year, that perhaps the band students, maybe they get the first pick for art club. That makes sense to me, but I don't think anything has been done by that. So I'm bringing this up because it's been 8 months. I brought all of my questions up last year, and I was kind of given a, we take your concerns seriously, but we back our, everything that has been decided. I totally understand. I really don't want an email that says, we really admire your passion, but we're still backing everybody. I mean, instead of doing some research. So I just did this on my free time because I want to know what's going on. I want all of you to know that under 4% of the staff made this decision for the entire school district. It's affecting 24% of the students that are at GMS today. I think if parents were involved, I really don't think that they would agree to that. I think band students should maybe get the option to maybe take a WIN or encore. But I just wanted to make sure my voice was heard. So that's all.
Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to the end of the meeting, and we are going to be going into closed session this evening. Do we have any more public comments signed up on that? No. We'll be going to closed session this evening, so I'm going to read a statement putting us in the closed session. I need a motion to go into closed session this evening in accordance with Illinois Public Act 5, ILCS 120/2, paragraph C2, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. We do not anticipate any new business coming out after the closed session, so we will adjourn directly from there as well. I need a motion.
I'll move.
Second?
Okay.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Albert,
Aye.
Weedman,
Aye.
and Braden.
Aye.
That ends this part of the meeting. There is charcuterie boards over to your left. Please help yourself to a plate before you leave, or two. Take one home.